Hello everyone, welcome back. This is RandoGEEK. We have an update regarding T-Mobile and UScellular. The link for this article can be found down below in the description for you, and it is coming from Fierce Network. The update here is T-Mobile is expected to buy most of UScellular's spectrum in the amount of $4.4 billion. So let's get down to the nitty-gritty here. T-Mobile has agreed to buy substantially all of UScellular's wireless operations for about $4.4 billion, including its 4 million wireless customers and certain spectrum assets. They are saying the transaction includes a combination of cash and up to $2 billion of debt to be assumed by T-Mobile. They're saying that it's important to note UScellular will be retaining about 70% of its spectrum assets and its 4,382 towers. T-Mobile will be entering into a long-term lease arrangement on at least 2,100 towers. Of course, little backstory here, UScellular has been losing customers left and right. No surprise here. We all know the story, and we've all been concerned about what was going on with UScellular, if they were going to sell, because they briefly mentioned that they are looking for other options here, which basically hinted that they might be selling off the company. They're just getting rid of it. And, who would buy it if that happened? Would it be T-Mobile, at&t, Verizon? Would Dish Network want some of it? I did a poll about it. I asked you guys what you thought would happen. A lot of you said it would probably get split up into all three big wireless carriers, leaving Dish out because we know Dish right now is having a huge struggles. They're barely surviving. So they don't have the money to buy the spectrum. I'm sure they would be interested if they did, but we have to count them out. So this is a battle between the three large carriers. Now, what's shocking though is it's an interesting way that this is going about. Now, I knew there was something going on with T-Mobile and UScellular. I did a report about a month ago where we read something that there was some kind of deal in works. There's also apparently a deal with Verizon and UScellular. I don't know if that's still going on. It might be, because the way that this deal kind of works, it leaves opportunity for Verizon. So anyway, 70% of its spectrum and assets are staying with UScellular. They're saying, in addition to that, UScellular is blaming the problems that they're having on the larger wireless carriers, at&t, Verizon, and T-Mobile, for moving into basically their territory. They're expanding rural coverage, and it's taking customers from UScellular and basically leaving them with nothing. So they're losing customers. The deals that T-Mobile and Verizon and at&t are offering are more competitive, and or the customers in those locations are just not feeling UScellular. I also think MVNO carriers are starting to take over companies. They're really starting to shine for a lot of consumers looking to cut the cord and save a couple dollars and get similar service as they can get with going to a postpaid experience on one of the three big carriers. They're even getting some interesting perks, and they just want to save a couple dollars. So we're starting to see more of this. This is a trend, people cutting the cord and just looking for the best alternative, not really looking to do business with the three carriers directly anyway. They want obviously the service is good, but they don't like transacting with the company. They're not feeling the plans. They don't think there's enough value for them when it comes to price and perks, et cetera, et cetera. All right. And then, of course, UScellular, knows that, it takes a lot of money and capital to build and operate modern wireless networks. So that's why they think this deal here between them and T-Mobile is a win for them, and surely a win for T-Mobile as well. So here's what's going on. After the transaction, UScellular will continue to be a player in the tower industry, they're saying, solidifying it as the fifth largest tower business in the US. T-Mobile will enter into a long-term master license agreement on at least 2,015 towers for an initial 15-year term, and extend the term on 600 US cellular towers, where T-Mobile, of course, is already a tenant for at least 15 years post-closing. They're saying the other important piece of this deal is the spectrum. UScellular has a plan to monetize its spectrum, and that it will get underway immediately, but it's unknown how long it will take. T-Mobile will acquire about 30% of UScellular spectrum portfolio, including all of the company's 600 megahertz, 2.5 gigahertz, and 24 gigahertz, which is essential for T-Mobile to get out there in those rural communities where they're not doing so good. UScellular has a very large presence in rural America, and this is where T-Mobile has been lacking. Verizon and AT&T seem to do better in those locations. Of course, they could always improve, but T-Mobile has been the one pretty much lagging behind for the most part. T-Mobile's greatest presence is in larger cities such as New York City, Los Angeles. Any real large city, T-Mobile has a very strong presence. Even if it's not the largest presence of that major city, it's still large enough to make them a major player for customers to choose. But the rule, not the best, but it has gotten a lot better. With this deal, it will surely give them a run for their money. They will certainly get bang for dollar with this. They'll be out there. It's probably a game changer, to be honest. This will basically be what they need to be taken a lot more serious. And folks, searching around, doing my homework, seeing what people are saying, many are arguing that this is why T-Mobile has been going up on prices. They know their value is going to be greater. Now, I've said this too. I've said with the improvements of Rule over the last year, this is probably why they've been doing this. They want to be taken more serious. We've all been saying this. It's really a no-brainer at this point. They're doing what they need to do to be taken more serious. They're trying to become a stronger, more reliable network. But with that comes a greater cost. It costs money to build out. It costs money to lease spectrum from major carriers. They got to pay for it. They got to go up on pricing. It's got to come from somewhere, right? And if consumers want better service, they have to pay for it, just like they would with AT&T or Verizon. This is why AT&T and Verizon charge what they charge, especially AT&T. They know they have a very large rural presence. They know that they have a very large presence in big cities. They basically have the entire U.S. covered very well. Not perfect, no carrier is perfect, but very well, and they're considered to be one of the most reliable networks. T-Mobile wants that reputation. This is what we're talking about here. This is what's been going on behind closed doors with T-Mobile. They're sitting there in the lab with a pen and a pad, and they're figuring out how can we be taken more serious. They no longer want to be an Un-carrier. They want to be a carrier. And this is what we're witnessing. All right, so they're saying UScellular will retain some of its 700 and 850 megahertz spectrum, as well as all of its C-band and 3.45 gigahertz CBRS and millimeter wave spectrum. I believe that the CBRS and the millimeter wave spectrum will most likely be a deal that could be offered to Verizon or might be already underway. We'll see. Because I think there's some kind of deal going on with them as well, but that could have faded away. I'm not really sure. That could be changed, and who knows what's going to happen with that. That could, at some point, go to T-Mobile if necessary, if needed, if required. So I don't know. We'll have to see on that. Now, as far as the regulatory approval, I think there's a very high chance this will get approved because basically this is a partnership. They're working with UScellular. They're not taking over UScellular. UScellular is not selling off the company. They're kind of partnering up and just basically it's a deal of one hand washes the other. UScellular is lending out their spectrum to T-Mobile in the areas where they need improvement, where they need to reach customers. And with that, UScellular is able to capitalize. And it looks like we read somewhere here where T-Mobile is going to be helping out UScellular employees. They're going to be offering employment to a significant number of UScellular employees. So, because UScellular will probably have to get rid of some, T-Mobile is apparently going to be helping out. So, I don't know. This is basically an interesting way to go about this. And if UScellular decides to basically just dump all of it to get, once and for all, it might be easier as far as, a regulatory standpoint goes for T-Mobile to kind of get their hands on the majority of it, I guess, because it'll kind of be like they already have a footprint. They're doing everything right. They're offering employment to employees. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how this works. I think this is kind of UScellular's clever way to go about it, to slowly unload and off the company, but not make it such a big deal that it takes 3 years for this to get approved. We're looking at maybe a year for approval process. They're saying maybe by mid 2025. So I guess we'll see. I just wanted to give you guys enough information. I try not to make this too long. I don't want every video to be 30 minutes. I do it when it's necessary. I have some things I wanted to say. I said them. I wanted to give you a little bit of, my standpoint, what I think about this, and enough information for you to understand what's happening. I do think this is an interesting way to go about this. Your comments are welcome down below. Do you think this will get approved? And how much do you think this will help T-Mobile? Do you still think Verizon wants in? As always, thank you guys so much for stopping by and watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye for now.